Welcome back to Fight IQ Picks. It's your boy Johnny P. Last week, Fazeev came through for us again. We're on a heater right now. Spinning heel kick to the head, second round. Torres went down. He finished clean on the ground. It was amazing. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but if you don't believe me, go back and watch our last video. It played out to a T of what we said. And also, we had a small play on Abus Nurmagomedov. It started out, the line opened at minus 140. I laid one unit. I thought it was a fair price. It got down to minus 120. We laid another one. It got to plus 110. We laid one more. What was going on there? It did push back a little toward the end there, but he looked dominant against Jacek, and he's shown that UFC thinks highly of him because of who he's fought, and that's exactly what I thought. I didn't say it on the show, that one, but we're going to keep getting better. We're going to keep going after the books. We can't talk about last week. We're up like 28 units, but let's move on. We got one of the biggest fights in years. Conor versus Max. And I'm going to be breaking down two fights here. We're going to go into the second play here. But it's been 5 years. Conor's been on the road. He's been in Hollywood. He's been fighting Jake Gyllenhaal. And Max, on the other hand, he's been fighting for the BMF. He's been fighting Charles Oliveira. He's been fighting the top of the crop all the time. But let's start with Conor. All right, like we always do. His last fight against Poirier, he broke his leg. His ankle was dangling by a thread. It wasn't a good look. He didn't look that good. The line was showing that Poirier's going to win. It was like minus 220 to open. And it wasn't a good showing. And then it's been a while since then. It's been 5 years. Fight before that, Poirier again, in the first comeback of Conor. Now, that was his second fight. He whooped on Cowboy in like 40 seconds, gave him some shoulder shots. We'll forget about that. But Poirier really put it on him, landed heavy shots. Conor looked good for a minute or two, but it showed the ring rust. And it did show the comeback. It's like maybe it's not as big as we thought. Now, I fell for it 2 years ago. Now, again, 5 years ago, I fell for it. Not 2 years ago. 5 years ago, I fell for that. And now, after that, after his first comeback, it had been 2 years after the Khabib fight. He went into boxing for a while. He came back, and it had been 2 years. And I really fell into it. I thought, hey, Conor, he's going to come back and do something here. He's going to go on a run for the belt again. Wrong. He had the fight with Poirier, lost twice, and now since then he's been losing to Jake Gyllenhaal in fights. So I'm really not having a lot of faith in this guy. His activity's not there. Is his speed still there? Is his timing still there? What about his cardio? Is he even want the belt anymore? Is it just a big money grab? Because he's talked about how big of a contract it is. It's like 5x of what anybody else has ever had, according to Conor. And he's on a 2-fight contract. Apparently, that's from what he said in one of the interviews, I think, with Ariel Helwani. But 2-fight contract, and there's 9 months in between fights. So now it's telling me something. But let's go on to Max real quick. Max Holloway. His last opponents, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Ilia Topuria, Justin Gaethje. We're talking killer. And he's done well against everybody except Charles there, and Charles really exploited a weakness of Max and just taking him down for 5 rounds and laying on his back for 20 minutes. It really didn't look good. But that's not what's going to happen here. Maybe Conor can wrestle for about 30 seconds. We saw him do it in Roadhouse. But, the guy's got a lot of mass now. He's larger, and I don't think his frame is going to hold up over 5 rounds. But Max still is throwing with crazy volume. He's got an iron chin. He's been fighting championship, like I said, BMF and for the real belt. He keeps getting better, as we've seen up until the Charles Oliveira fight. But again, that's a different fight. And 5 years in MMA, it's going to make a huge difference. Now, is Conor still Conor? Is Conor still going to go on this run, this championship run? He says things, he does things. It's what he used to. It's been 8-9 years since he's won a fight. I'm not too confident in his ability to come back. Now, like I said, I fell for it before. I did. But Max is just such a complete fighter. It's hard to pick against him, and I think it's crazy of what we were getting. I thought a fair price was minus 400, and I think that's what the opening line was. I don't think I'm too far off of what the book said. It's down to minus 210 now. Every time this guy speaks, the line moves, and it's moving in our favor. I love it. It's great. Let's lay on Max, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a parlay piece for him and really get an even money play. I did see that the method of victory is out, and I think it's very probable. It's by KO or TKO, minus 125. So again, the books know what's going to happen. They can see the writing on the wall, the comeback. if Max can get out of 1 minute of this fight, it's not looking good for Conor, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's a fair price. We're getting minus 210. I think we honestly can wait. We can wait and we can wait because there's going to be another press conference. There's going to be more Conor washing his hair and talking to a mirror. It's amazing. I love these. I love Conor McGregor. But it's not going to look good. He's probably going to get his ass kicked here, and that's my opinion. When I broke down my numbers here, I had Max coming in at 89 out of 100. I had Conor coming in as a 69. Now, why I have that is because Max has fought such elite competition consistently. He's had big wins. He's done well against all these people. He's been the champion for long runs. Conor is coming off one of the worst injuries of his career, one of the worst injuries we've seen in the UFC. Debate injuries, but it was a bad one, leg break. And the inactivity, the cardio, where's he been? He's on yachts. He's throwing money. He's on Hollywood. He's getting his ass kicked by Jake. Like I said, that wasn't a good look in Roadhouse there. He would look good for a while, but he faded. Go and watch that one. That one's a good one. But, okay, so let's move on with that one. It's a no-brainer. Max, 1-2 play. Again, if we can find a parlay piece, I'm going to add a second and a third. I'm thinking maybe Max 4 play, maybe 5 with the method of victory play. So I do like it. I'm leaning high on it, but the line is juice. So I will lay, like I said, 2 on that line, maybe 2 on a parlay, and then 1 on a method of victory. That's what we'll do with that because I do think it's a great play. But now the co-main event. This fight is amazing too. God of War, Benoit Saint Denis is taking on Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Now, this fight's going to be a fun one. I have gone back and forth. I've been fascinated with this fight because I can't figure out, I keep dreaming on this one. That's what's taken me so long to come up with a video. I dream on these fights. I lay down, I tell my brain, all right, what are we going to do? And then I wake up and I go, got it. That's why we're on such a run. But, so, I've been dreaming. And I keep dreaming of Benoit. And I keep dreaming of Paddy. And it's going back and forth. And that's exactly what I thought it should be. My fighter breakdown here, I had Paddy coming in at 74.5. I got Benoit coming in at 73. I can see this playing out in so many different ways. And let's start with Benoit here. Let's talk about why we're here. Benoit, his last 3, he fought Dan Hooker, he's gone Dariush, and he's gone Mauricio Rufy. Now, Rufy fight looked amazing. Rufy, though, he showed an exploit, he showed a hole in his game big time where he just kept taking him down, and Rufy was kind of out of his element on the ground there, and Benoit really took advantage of that. Now against Dariush came out with some heavy leg kicks. It looked okay at first, and then 1 shot from Benoit. We know the guy is pretty much done. He just won't accept it himself, and I'm sorry to say, I love Benny too. Benny, it's time to probably hang it up or go into slap or something, but even that you probably wouldn't do well. Dan Hooker fight, it was close at first. Hooker kept threatening with a choke when Benoit would try to take him down, and it was working for some takedown defense for a while, but eventually he got the takedown. And, I went back even further to his losses. Now, he fought Poirier. He fought Moicano. He had back-to-back losses. In the Poirier fight, he came in as a big favorite, and he kept getting into wars with Poirier, and he kept getting hurt and taking a lot of damage. He looked good at first, but he kind of looked tired in the second. And Poirier started to put it on with some big shots in the clinch because Benoit's willing to go into those wars. He's the god of war. He doesn't care. And then when he fought Moicano, he kind of just made a mistake and let Moicano do a quick duck under, took his back, had him down for 4 minutes, and just softened him up for 4 minutes. And he really didn't have a chance. It was hard to watch after that. And I think Moicano honestly felt bad for him because he was so beat up. He had cuts above, below, all over his eyes. And they didn't stop it until after the 3rd or maybe before the 3rd round. But it was hard to watch. He was really, really beat up. And in those 2 fights, he took significant damage. And again, we saw early in his career, he took big damage on 1 too. Now, is that damage piling up on Benoit? I think it might be. He's looked good of late, but he did have a little bit of trouble getting in on Hooker. And Paddy is long for the division. Now, let's talk about Paddy for a little bit. Paddy's last 3 opponents, he's fought Justin Chandler and King Green. Performance of the night and fight of the night, King Green and Michael Chandler fight, and then fight of the night with Gaethje. Now, the Gaethje fight, he looked really good at first, and he got hurt against the fence. Gaethje backed him up, and he took a big shot, and Paddy really hasn't taken many big shots. And from what people say in the UFC, Gaethje hits harder than anybody. They go, who's the hardest person you've been hit by in that division? Gaethje, every time. So, it's not really a knock on his cap to say he got hurt by Gaethje because a lot of people get hurt by Gaethje. We just saw it with Topuria. He had Topuria, really beat up. So Patty, I kept going back and forth on it, and I think if Benoit wants to get into a ground game, it's dangerous for him. So it might cancel out a bit. It might end up Benoit hurting Patty in the clinch and going to the ground, and Benoit just dominates him. It could end up Patty gets a quick takedown, because I'm sure he's been working his takedowns because he knows Benoit is not very good on the bottom. So, he's had time to prepare for this fight too. And Patty doesn't just take fights that he's going to lose. I think Patty and his camp are very smart, and they plan well, because you can see it in the Gaethje fight, for example, when he was working uppercuts, he was working knees, because he knew what Gaethje always dips his head. So they game plan, they do. And I think it's a close fight on paper, and I think it's going to be a close fight on paper. But now, all of a sudden, we're getting plus 125 on Patty. It's kind of pushing back a little bit. I've already laid a 2-unit bet on Patty, but I was willing to just take whoever was the plus, because I honestly thought it was dog or pass, or, and when I saw it was opening at a pick'em and it was so close originally, I was just going to let it go and enjoy the fight. But now we're getting plus money on one of them. Let's just take it and just take a unit play on a dog here, because either dog is live, and if we're going to get a little plus money on one or the other, especially if people keep coming in on Benoit, then let's take it, because I see this fight playing very close, and it could go either way. Just depends on how the fight goes. I mean, will Patty get hurt early? Will he be able to get him down? Will he be able to work at range and work these low kicks? Because Benoit has a lot of trouble with low kicks. Patty's last opponent, Gaethje, he's the champ. And I think that loss is aging really well, because he had his moments. He did. I was going back and forth on that fight, and I was first on Gaethje and had a whole write-up on why Gaethje was going to win this fight. And then I fell into the Patty, just like McGregor. Patty can say what he does, and he can do a lot on the ground. I think this fight could play that way if Benoit wants to go into the top and work into Patty's ground game. I think he could get subbed. I think Patty could get on top and work a lot of damage. I think Benoit could hurt Patty in the clinch. So it's just back and forth. So let's just take the plus money and enjoy the fight. Don't go crazy on it. 1 or 2 units. And let's call it a day, because it's so dang close. So we'll be back later this week. I'm going to put out one more with some final plays, because this card is amazing. So sorry we've been gone for so long. Hope you enjoyed your 4th of July. Come back and see us again. Like and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. We're crushing the books like right now. Like I said, we're 11-2-1 over the last month and a half. And let's just keep this train a-running. Let's get the baddie on our side. All right, Fight IQ Picks. It's your boy, Johnny P. Thank y'all. Come back again.